Bo Nix is one of the NFL's best quarterbacks in the fourth quarter. Those first three quarters we don't like to talk about quite so much because they aren't going quite so well for him. I'm Henry Chisholm, and today we are digging into why Bo Nix is so much better in the fourth quarter than he is in the first three quarters. Bo Nix leads the NFL in fourth quarter comebacks this year. He has the most total touchdowns, rushing plus passing in the fourth quarter of any quarterback in the NFL. Over the past 2 years, since the beginning of his rookie season, he has led more fourth quarter comebacks than any other quarterback in the entire NFL. There are a bunch of these stats that show that he's the very best, and here are the big ones. So you'll see on the vertical axis, we've got the passer rating. On the bottom axis, you can see the EPA per dropback. Now, this chart shows all of the NFL's quarterbacks, the 35 with the most pass attempts this season in the first three quarters of NFL games. You can see Bo Nix toward the bottom, away from that top right corner where you want to be in all these charts. Real quick on EPA per play. The way it works is they calculate how many points they expect a team to score when they have a 1st and 10 at the 20-yard line, for example. Now you pick up a big gain, 30 yards, you now have 1st and 10 at the 50-yard line. Maybe your expected points go from 1.5 points to about 3 points. So that play is worth 1.5 points. They average it out across every single dropback. It's a fun, fancy way to look at quarterback performance. For most of this video, though, we're going to be talking passer rating because it's a lot easier to manipulate, find different scenarios, and see what's working and what's not in a whole bunch of different ways. But now, let's jump ahead. Let's look at the fourth quarter stats. And now you see Bo Nix much closer to that top right corner. When you look up there, you see Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels, Matt Stafford, a bunch of guys that you want to be around. This would suggest that, he's one of the top 3, 4, 5, 6 quarterbacks in the NFL in terms of the fourth quarter. Now, we've been watching the games. We all know that he's one of the best quarterbacks in the fourth quarter. The question is why that's the case. And I think that we should jump in and see how this passer rating changes, just to see a little bit more in detail what's going on here. Bo's passer rating by quarter, you can see first quarter, not so good. Second quarter, little better. Third quarter, not so good. Fourth quarter, the big jump that we've been talking about. Now, this is a trend with him. We're going to throw on last year's stats from Bo Nix, and again, see how that pass rating changed. You'll see about the same thing. Little jump in the second quarter, big jump in the fourth quarter. This is unique. Here's the NFL trend over the course of this season, the first 9 weeks of the season. What you find is actually the opposite. First quarter good, second quarter slight dip, third quarter good, fourth quarter slight dip. Now, again, there's a little bit of randomness in all these stats, and we can probably say for most quarterbacks, it stays about even from start to finish. Bo Nix is a bit of an outlier. The Broncos have had outliers like this before, though, and you've probably heard their names. Most recently, Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow in 2011 led all sorts of different comebacks that we'll never forget, and the graph supports that what we've seen is correct. Beginning of the game's not so good. Second quarter, third quarter, you see some growth, and then the big jump in the fourth quarter, exactly what you'd expect. We can throw in John Elway's career numbers, and they're surprisingly flat. John Elway's the comeback kid. The reason his name is etched in history books is because of his ability to lead comebacks in the fourth quarter. But when you look at his career numbers, you see that he was pretty consistent from quarter to quarter to quarter to quarter. Here's an idea. Let's just look at his first 2 seasons. Bo Nix in his first 2 seasons, let's just go apples to apples. Where was John Elway at this point? And there you see the growth. From 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, where it peaks. Obviously, something was happening there, and that's how you get the reputation of being the comeback kid. Maybe this is a positive sign. Maybe we can see that it's possible for quarterbacks to outgrow this randomness, although the reputation may stick with you. But, bit interesting to see that John Elway did see his stats balance out over the course of his career. We're going to look at this a different way now. So let's just go back to Bo Nix. And again, we'll look at the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. We're actually going to flip a 5th piece into here. So this 5th stat is going to be dividing up the first 13 minutes of the second quarter from the last 2 minutes of the second quarter. Why? Because those last 2 minutes, that's where your 2-minute drill is. So you're playing a little bit differently. Could this explain the spike in Bo Nix's play? And the answer is yes. You see that the first quarter, the first 13 minutes of the second quarter, the third quarter, all about the same, but it's that last 2 minutes that creates the spike in the second quarter, along with the fourth quarter where we know that Bo has been money. So what do we do with this? Well, I went through and checked a bunch of different things that came to mind first. What could be going on? Could it be the tempo? Could Bo Nix be better up tempo? The answer is yes. 92.3 passer rating with tempo, 85.3 without tempo. Not a huge gap, though. Not a big enough gap to explain these massive changes we've seen. The no-huddle, could that be the difference? 91.6 passer rating with no-huddle, 88 with a huddle. An even smaller difference. What about shotgun? When you're trying to go fast, you're trying to lead a 2-minute drill, you're trying to come back in the fourth quarter, there's a lot more shotgun. 89.1 passer rating in shotgun, 84.7 without shotgun. So maybe these little trends are helping out a bit on the margins, but they're not big enough to explain the massive changes that we're seeing in the 2-minute drill before halftime and in the fourth quarter when the Broncos need to come back. Let's check some other stuff. So Bo Nix is second in the NFL in missed throws. We talked about the overthrows. He has 40 overthrows this season, the most in the NFL. That's a trend that we've seen with our eyes, and it lends itself to the stats as well. Both those stats drop a little bit in the fourth quarter. Not enough to explain it. Maybe enough to account for 1 or 2 missed passes, maybe 3 missed passes in the fourth quarter over the course of the season. The Broncos have the second most drops in the NFL. That drop rate, again, falls in the fourth quarter, but it's the difference between like maybe 1 or 2 more drops. Now, these 5 plays between the missed throws and the drops, maybe that keeps 5 drives going. Sometimes all it takes is a small change to create a big swing in the stats, but unlikely, again, that these are the big difference. So let's look at some other things. You know, in the fourth quarter, you would think maybe he's pushing the ball downfield more. The answer is no. He's actually throwing the ball less far downfield. The average depth of target drops by about 1 yard. The average length of third down is longer, which means they aren't just putting themselves in better situations. Are they running fewer third down plays? Nope. They're actually running about the same number of third down plays in the first 3 quarters as they are in the fourth quarter. There aren't many trends here until you get to this one, where maybe there is a difference. Bo runs more in the fourth quarter. Now, this can be a little bit misleading. You would think they'd be a little bit more productive, but 43% of Bo's carries this season are in the fourth quarter. So could that be unlocking the offense? Maybe. The difference is his success rate on those runs is very low. It's about 42%, which is lower than J.K. Dobbins, lower than Marvin Mims, lower than just about everybody on the Broncos roster. So you can't point to those plays and say they're working. Another way to look at it is, of the 24th quarter plays that Bo Nix has made that has changed the Broncos' win percentage by at least 5 points, 19 of them have been passes. So there's only one run in there that's made a big difference in the fourth quarter of a game, and that was the big run on Sunday against the Texans that we all remember. Here's a structural change. Here's one that may explain part of it. It's a small sample size because the Broncos aren't empty very often. Bo Nix has a 101.8 pass rating in empty versus 83.2 when they're not empty. Maybe there's something going on there. Again, it counts for about 25 plays in all these fourth quarters. But hey, we're starting to build some different things that are helping. The biggest difference, though, is how the defense is defending Bo Nix's offense. Bo is awesome against the blitz. He has a 109.3 pass rating against the blitz versus 83.5 when not blitzed. One of the biggest swings in the NFL. What's the result? The result is only one quarterback in the NFL, Cam Ward of the Tennessee Titans, has been blitzed less this season. Teams refuse to blitz Bo because Bo's really good against the blitz. In the fourth quarter, though, he gets blitzed a little bit more, about 22% more. Again, we're stacking these different things. And finally, man coverage versus zone coverage. Bo Nix, 109.9 pass rating against man, 83.4 against zone. Defenses play 50% more man coverage against him in the fourth quarter. I think we're on to something with that one. Again, it's only worth another few dozen plays over the course of all these fourth quarters, but we start to find a couple of these categories where Bo performs well, and they start to add up into a solid number of plays. The number that, either against the blitz or against man coverage, the plays that are shotgun, where there's a slight increase. The plays that's up tempo, where again, a slight increase. Stack all those on top of each other, we might be onto something. I want to look through a few different plays that we've seen from Bo just on Sunday that might explain some of these trends. So we talked about the blitz. We talked about man coverage. Well, here's a play when the Broncos are down 15-7 in the fourth quarter against the Texans. It's 3rd and 7. Bo Nix sees a blitz. He knows he has man coverage. He snaps the ball. He rips it to Pat Bryant before Pat Bryant even breaks. Pat Bryant fights for the first down. That's what we're talking about. These fourth quarter plays, he knows what's coming. He's decisive. He's quick. He gets the ball out, and he beats man coverage. We like that. Now, here's one more thing. We go through all these different categories where Bo is playing really well compared to the average, but they're only partially explaining things. One thing is that Bo just doesn't really turn the ball over in the fourth quarter, and it might be that simple. Here are 2 plays. similar in some ways, with very different results from Sunday. Here's the first one. It's in the second quarter. Courtland Sutton has space up the sideline. Bo Nix wants to take him deep. He throws the ball, but for some reason he leads him inside instead of toward the boundary. Maybe could have released the ball a bit sooner too to create a little bit bigger window, but big problem. Lead him inside. It's intercepted. Here's a similar play from later on in the game. It might show that Bo Nix learned a lesson there. RJ Harvey is going to come out of the backfield. You see him pass the linebacker who can't keep up with him in coverage, and there's a safety over the top. So what does Bo do? Leads him toward the sideline, and he's got a touchdown. Sometimes it's tough to quantify these things. As much as we try and we find a couple different trends, maybe the tempo does help a little. It doesn't help as much as the people on Twitter might make you think. Maybe no huddle helps. Again, doesn't help as much as you might think. Maybe going empty could help out some, but again, you're not scaring the defense with the threat of a run, and there's some long-term costs to leaning into an empty passing attack. What if Bo just is clutching up? As crazy as it sounds, that might be the answer. It's just that Bo doesn't make the mistakes in the fourth quarter that cost the team. And it's tougher to quantify that sort of thing. It's tougher to find reasons that are structural that explain why that would be the case. The answer might just be you need fourth quarter Bo to show up in the first three quarters. If you can get teams to blitz a little bit more, this might be a little bit easier, force teams to play man coverage more by beating their zone coverages a little bit more often, you might be able to help Bo into becoming fourth quarter Bo in the first three quarters. The answer just is Bo makes more plays and avoids mistakes in the fourth quarter. As simple as that sounds, that's the answer. The eye test is correct. Bo Nix is just a fourth quarter phenom. He's an incredible quarterback. The question is for the Broncos, can you find out what's going on in his head that makes him so much better in the fourth quarter than he is in the first three quarters? Because if you could turn fourth quarter Bo into all day Bo, you would actually have one of the NFL's top passers.